Something with those.
Did you go to all the games?
Not all.
Oh, were you? Oh, very good. Wow. Wow. Who do you go with? That's so fun. And I think you go, is it actually, there? So I like to show.
Okay.
Take one for back. It was so fun. Our seats were. Look at me, solve the world problem, one problem at a time. Whatever that thing is at a time. It's no hard tricks. One button at a time. It was just fun.
Most of the 40s are by
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, we're all something doing stuff I hope it's not. Oh, because you're in the altitude, that's what it I knew how to do it. And now all of a sudden, live forward, stop.
This is the first one, right?
Just gonna sit here and figure it out, because I cannot.
I've never used this interface, so I can't tell you what.
Is he ready? Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, December the 16th. To start the meeting, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be aware this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and the meeting may also be audio or video recorded by people present in the room. First item of business is the opportunity for public comment. So this is for anyone in attendance who has a comment or a question about something that is not on the agenda tonight. So if you have, please raise your hand. Mr. Rabari, before you speak, Mr. Rabari, I just want to say a couple of things. Although you are not a resident or a taxpayer of West Goshen,
That's correct.
have you submitted any documents? What have you paid taxes on?
Those are all the taxes I pay. I'm a taxpayer.
This is for a property
511 Court Circle.
which is in the deed of Miss Kim Rabari, which is not
That's
you.
my homeowner's house.
But that is not you, correct?
Do you own the property, sir?
Excuse me?
Do you own the
I
property?
rent the property. I have a lease on the property and I pay all the taxes.
It doesn't matter who pays it, it's the
That's
deed
all the
owner.
taxes I pay. I'm a taxpayer.
It doesn't matter that you've submitted to us a tax bill, you are not the property owner.
I'm
Ms.
not the
Kim
property-
Rabari is the property
Yes,
owner.
that's correct.
So you're not a resident
I'm not a resident.
owner, you're not a property owner in West Goshen. So let me
Tax-
finish what I have to say, sir. Although you are not a resident or a taxpayer, which is true, we are going to afford you the opportunity to speak for 2 minutes tonight. So please go ahead.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
That's right.
Is that what the minorities get in this township? Everybody else gets 35 minutes?
You are not a resident or a taxpayer. We
I
are
am a
affording you
taxpayer.
the opportunity.
I am a
You're
taxpayer.
pointing to something we just discussed, but you are not a
It's
taxpayer.
taxpayer. I pay taxes.
Okay, the 2 minutes is going to start now, so if you want to keep saying that, that's up to you. Okay, 2 minutes start now.
My name is Abbas Raberi. I'm a taxpayer of West Goshen. I'm a full-time corruption investigator. I investigate corruptions in municipalities and police department. I have investigated this township and its police department for a long time. First of all, they were not paying their taxes, 501c. I reported that proper authorities, they were fined $6,000 and they were seized and desist ordered. Second of all, there was a Detective Sergeant Maurer of West Goshen Police Department. He was stealing drugs from the container in the police department, and he was giving it to the girlfriends and girls and using it for sexual favors. I attended the hearing. He pleaded guilty. You have to ask yourself, in a small police department, how come the chief of police didn't know that? My father was a Superior Court judge in Iran. He always said to me, corruption always starts from the top. So that's what's going on. After that, you have to ask yourself why the township managers knew, why the zoning officers knew, why the engineers knew, why head of the public works knew. By the way, head of the public works hung himself. He went to the tree, hung himself. You have to ask yourself what kind of issue he had with this township, what they did to him that he had to resort to that. You have to ask yourself, how come these people are so afraid of me talking? How come they're not putting these things? How come the public doesn't know anything about it? You pay taxes in this township. If you have any kind of a corruption knowledge, please contact me, 484-880-0276. 484-880-0276. I continue to investigate this township. By the way, there's one more person in that police department still crooked. So we're going to get a hold of him.
Thank you, Mr. Rabari.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind you, this is not England.
Is there anyone else for the public comment? Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Supervisors, good evening. We just keep my remarks brief. We had a question in regards to the tarping issue regarding, first of all, I'm Stephen Lyons with Save Forsyth Farm. That's who I'm representing. We oppose demolition and development of this historic asset. There was a question that was addressed here several months ago in August regarding the tarping. And an effort was made to contact the bank, I believe, who was the custodian of the property at the time, and they had said that they were not going to continue any further issues with the maintenance of the property. And now we're in conservatorship, and the question is, BDP Impact Real Estate, at the September 2nd meeting, I had asked Mr. Ewald if they could place tarping on the roof, and he said that they could get it done within 48 hours. We are coming into the winter season and there's no tarping on the roof. The other point I wanted to make was there was 2 hours ago another accident at Westtown Road and Falcon Lane. This road, Westtown Road, is notorious for its safety and danger. And our neighbors, Save Forsyth Farm, are extremely concerned about the impact any potential development will have on this. And in closing, I want to thank the potential to present some ideas around how we can find a cooperative solution that respects this tremendous history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Chris, do you have any comment on the ability of the conservator to put a tarp on the property?
I know that they're doing their due diligence in terms of securing the property, but I will check with Mr. Ewald about that item.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for the public comment? Okay, then we'll move on to the next item of business, which is Discussion of the final 2026 General Fund, Sewer Fund, Waste and Recycling Fund, Capital Reserve Fund, Highway Aid Fund, and American Rescue Fund budgets, and approval of Resolution 35, 2025, adopting said 2026 budgets and the 10-year capital improvement plan for West Goshen Township. So with us tonight is Ms. Rippey. Do you have a microphone with you, Christine? I just wanted to ask you if there were any specific points you wanted to make about the updates to the final budget compared to the preliminary budget.
Not really. We adjusted some projected actuals as we always do based on, the invoices we've received since we prepared the preliminary budget. Aside from that, there were only some minor adjustments to the budget figures based on some, additional trending information and things like that that we've received, so.
Okay, does any of the board have any questions for Christine on the final budget? Chris, did you receive any public comments having advertised the budget? Other than those from Ms. Swart, which I'll address.
Other than those from Ms. Swart, no.
Okay. Does anyone in the room have any comments on the final budget?
I'd just like to raise a question.
Sure.
Concerning the senior citizen rebate program,
Mm-hmm.
I just recently became aware of it. We only issue a rebate to the amount of 80% of their trash and sewer bill.
Correct.
And I just wonder, where did that 80% figure come from? Why not 70% or 90% or 50%?
I'm not honestly sure. Chris and I had discussed that after the last meeting. That's been in place for long before I've been here. My assumption is to cover at least a portion of the administrative costs for running the sewer and trash program. But, I believe it's a policy decision.
It's a policy decision for the board. Also, in looking at, the program closely mirrors the rent and property tax rebate program through the state. Those programs set that program sets maximum cap levels on refunds based on income level. So the higher your income in terms of eligibility, which I think caps around $46,000 and change, the lower your rebate is. So I kind of feel like I think it was designed to mimic that to a certain degree.
And I'll just add, in order for residents to qualify for our rebate, they also have to receive the property rebate that Chris just referenced.
And provide documentation to them.
Correct. We have to have that documentation in order for them to be approved.
Well, I guess where I'm going with this is, what would it take for us to be able to give our senior citizens who are eligible for it because of their income, low income, to be able to get 100% of their trash and sewer rebate? I mean, I'm looking at some numbers here. Looks like we got $73,600 budgeted for 2026. How much more would we have to do to add to that to be able to allow us to do 100% of total trash? So,
Well, we have budgeted 80%, so it would be 20% more than the figure that you're seeing there.
I thought that, well, not necessarily. I mean, I think you budgeted for like 100 people, I think.
Yeah, and we get close to that. It fluctuates really year to year depending on, who qualifies that year and who applies. Internally, when we have a resident that qualifies, we automatically reach out to them the following year, like, qualified for this last year, here's your paperwork for the subsequent year, so that they know to apply. But, when we get new people, that sort of just compounds, a lot of people may not know that they're eligible, things like that.
And people also, for whatever reasons, also drop off the list.
Yeah.
I want to say we sent out around 116 letters this year based on the spreadsheet I looked at.
Mhm.
And like, what, 74 or something?
74.
Yeah, we don't
74 actually
always,
received the rebate.
yeah,
so-
we send out the letters, we may not receive all of the applications back, but we budget according to how many, we typically mail out, expecting that everyone we reach out to will respond, but that doesn't always happen, so.
What time of year does that occur? Is it third quarter?
I'm trying to think of when the letters go out. I want to say it's over the summer, like the
I
end
believe
of the
it's
summer,
July.
yeah.
It's in the third quarter.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, I'm just wondering, what would it take for us to be able to include in our budget for 2026 the allowance for 100% of total trash and sewer?
So I would like to answer that. I think, we have a budget mid-year review. We'll see how we're doing then. We can certainly revisit it as a policy decision at that point.
Yep.
We're not talking millions of dollars here,
No,
so
no.
it's easily adjustable for a second half of the year if the board
Yep.
so decided, correct?
Yeah, now, again, I don't know if there's any, rules against, maximum you're allowed to get back or
Yeah,
anything
we
like
can
that.
look
That's
into
not
that.
my sort of expertise, but,
Well, just curious, when do people have to respond by? What's the deadline?
I don't know offhand, but we allow people to apply late as well. So, you'll see some of those come through on the manual checks from the bills list throughout the rest of the year. Just if, even if somebody applies late, we still allow them, through the process so that they can get the rebate as well. So we don't have a hard deadline, really just to meet the presentation and approval at the board meeting, so.
Just whenever you have a pretty good idea by the middle of the year, how many people would be applying and be able to gauge accordingly. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Well, if we're not mailing the letters out until, mid-third quarter, or,
Oh, well, that would,
we
we
may
wouldn't
not,
know then.
yeah, so.
But what we can do.
By
and Mr.
preliminary
Ross-
budget, by preliminary budget next year, we should have a good idea of how many applications we received back and things like that, so.
What we could do is look at, since it's an 80-20 split, we can look at what was paid out in 2025 and add 20% to that.
We can talk about that at the mid-year review.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a significant amount of money.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Is there any other comments from anyone in attendance about the final budget? Okay, I'm going to address Ms. Swartz's public comment, which she submitted by email. So she recognized that the general fund has a deficit driven primarily by the fact that we're transferring $2.5 million to the capital reserve fund, of which $540,000 is basically for the debt service on the township's debt. And the other $2 million is a top-up to the reserve, which pays for our capital asset investments in the township. So those are our infrastructure projects, our permit compliance projects, our amenities, vehicles, equipment that we need to purchase, etc. She suggests that without this transfer, of course, that there's surplus within the general fund, surplus of several $100,000, of which she suggests some of it could be given back as a tax rebate to property tax owners. This is very similar to a discussion we had last year about the situation. So the township's been in the fortunate position of receiving extraordinary income for several years based on the build-out of the Greystone. So we've seen a surge in transfer tax receipts based on the sale of lots and then the subsequent sale to new homeowners. We've seen a large increase in permits because of the build-out that's occurred. And of course, we've also had some additional income from the interest earnings on our balances. So these are not sustainable revenues, and we've seen and forecast a decrease in some of these for 2026 and then probably again in 2027. So although we are currently in the fortunate position of having a surplus in the general fund, as we look down the road, that surplus could very rapidly disappear. Plus, although the operating revenues and expenses may be imbalanced, capital investment is essential to the township. We can't neglect our infrastructure. We've already seen in this township what happens if you neglect infrastructure, such as what happened with our sewer system over the years. So I'm personally totally opposed to any form of tax rebate for 2026. I will also point out this is the 16th year in a row that property taxes have been the same in West Goshen Township. And the price of property in the township has increased by about 50–60% in the last 10 years, more over the last 15 years for the length that we've not had a property tax increase. So I believe property owners are doing pretty well. And their share of our expenses has decreased from about 24% in 2015 down to close to 20% today. So the burden of taxes in this township falls mainly on the working men and women. And they support most of the cost of operating the services that we provide. So I'm opposed to such a request. Does any board member have a different view?
No, I agree. I mean, we've been very fortunate the past 3 years, I would say, getting income from sources that are no longer going to be there. And if we start giving back money in a couple of years from now, we'd be looking for a tax increase, and I don't think we want to be there. So fortunately, we don't have to do a tax increase this year, and we're not anticipating have to do it in the near-term future. So to jeopardize that, I think would be judicially irresponsible.
Thank you, John. Anyone else with a comment?
No, I think we said that much.
Thank you.
What John said, I believe it's saving for a rainy day.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to note that under the second-class township code, the Local Tax Enabling Act, there's only so many ways to generate revenue for a municipality. In the second-class township code, it allows municipalities to set millage for certain types of expenses. Capital projects are not one of those. The only way for the township to adequately fund capital projects are through interfund operating transfers from the general fund or other funds and through grants that are received.
Good point. Thank you, Chris. All right, is there any other comments or questions about the budget? Okay, then I will make a motion to approve resolution number 35, 2025, adopting the 2026 budgets and the 10-year capital improvement plan for West Goshen Township.
I'll second.
Chris, do you have to read out the amounts or not? No.
No, not stated.
It's stated in the resolution.
All right, very good. So we have a motion. Is there any public comment or questions about the motion? Anyone who's a taxpayer or a resident of West Goshen Township have a comment?
Mr. Chairman,
No, you need to sit
are
down,
you
sir.
denying me?
I am denying you. We have
I
given you
just
the
want a record to reflect you're
Absolutely.
denying me.
I'm denying you the
Because of
right.
action, then.
I'm denying you the chance to speak. You're not a resident or a taxpayer.
I'm a taxpayer.
You are not a taxpayer. The
I
more
am
you
a
say it,
taxpayer.
the more you
Look,
disannoy
all
me.
the taxes are here.
We asked you to provide that in advance. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
All you did was provide the
Yeah,
fact that
you can't
Mr.
see it.
Bari, your ex-wife, owns property. Now
Yeah,
sit
you
down
don't.
and be quiet. Thank you.
Oh my God,
Anyone else
I'm
have a
afraid, huh?
question? Anyone else have a question?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to thank Ms. Ricky, Chief Carroll, Mr. Kolakowski, Ms. Smith, and all of our other department heads and managers who assisted in the budget process this year, and all the
Absolutely.
members of the township staff for all their work.
Totally agree. Thank you
Thank
all.
you all.
All right, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 5 is discussion and possible approval of resolution number 36, 2025, adopting the 26 real estate tax millage rate at 2 mils. Does the board have any comments or questions? Okay, is a board member willing to make a motion to approve resolution number 36, 2025?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Nate.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Is there any public comment or question? Very good. And we'll
Mr.
take a
Chairman,
vote. I've already
question.
answered you. You're
I have a
not,
question.
I'm not asking
It's a
you,
pub-
you don't have the right to speak, and I'm not
Why?
asking you to. Because you're not a resident or a taxpayer.
I'm a taxpayer, here it is.
We don't believe you are.
It is a taxes, all the taxes I pay
I'm
here.
going to ask the board members, does any board member wish to have Mr. Rabari make a comment on this? No. Thank you. Sit down, sir.
I just want a record.
Anyone else who is a resident or a taxpayer have a comment or a question? Very good, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 6 is discussion and possible approval of resolution number 37, 2025, granting preliminary final subdivision and land development approval, proposing the redevelopment at 20 Ellis Lane with 14 townhomes, and combining the parcels at 20 Ellis Lane and 1240 Strasburg Road into a single parcel. Brian, we have some guests with us, I believe. Would you like to introduce them? Hello?
Hi.
Yes, good evening. Tonight, we have the developer, Ted Morales, at the podium, his attorney and his engineer both here as well. And Ms. Camp has prepared a resolution of approval. So I will turn it over to Ted to make his presentation to the board.
Very good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ted Worrell. I'm a lifelong resident of West Goshen Township, up until very recently, moved to the borough, so not very far. As Brian said, I'm here tonight with my partner, Rich Santalari, as well as our engineer, Linda Layer, and our attorney, Gina Gerber. Rich and I are the principals of Best Built Real Estate and Chester County Contracting, based here in the borough of Westchester. We're a design-build firm focusing on projects exactly like this. We are very appreciative to be here tonight to discuss Alice 12 crossing. This meeting marks our 11th public meeting over the past 18 months, which really is the culmination of an exceptional amount of planning, work, collaboration, design, more collaboration, and more work. Throughout this process, we have collaborated with the township staff, with the Historic Commission, third-party consultants, as well as received feedback from the public throughout all these public meetings. As such, I can confidently say that I feel this project is well planned, and I think many others who've been involved would support me. We also believe that hopefully it is soon to be well executed. So just as a reminder, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, I'd like to just run through the project and then answer any questions you might have. So the property consists of 3.2 acres. It's 20 Ellis Lane and 1240 East Stroudsburg Road. Currently it is zoned C4, and it's improved with 2 dwellings, one of which is historic, as well as a bank barn, a stone bank barn that would be repurposed through this project through using the stone for entrance monuments, as well as a beautiful retaining wall. And the barn beams will also be repurposed as part of the entrance monument as well. It's also worth noting that as part of the sales process, we are going to be working with the Historic Commission to have a narrative that is accurate about the history of the property, to convey that to potential property owners. That was part of one of our Historic Commission meetings, which we think is a great idea. The 2 existing dwellings will be renovated and resold to new homeowners, and there'll be 14 new townhomes constructed. It's also worth noting that the zoning code will permit 18 units by right. We intentionally did not max out the density for a variety of reasons, mainly to make sure we have a contributing asset to the community. The new townhomes will consist of 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage with ample overflow parking. There'll be slab on grade. The facade will be a mix of stone, vertical, and horizontal siding to really create a beautiful aesthetic appeal. It's classic Chester County is what we're going for. Not shown in the plan you're seeing here is a sidewalk that's going to run along Ellis Lane, connecting the retail strip you see on the right. There are 4 stormwater management facilities on the property. The first is to the far right, where you see a grass paved emergency. The second is where the existing barn sits, where we'll also have some of that stone lining the walls of the stormwater management facility. The third is to the left, between the 2 existing dwellings, and the 4th is underneath the entrance drive leading into the property. As part of this process, we are requesting a few small waivers and 1 partial waiver. The first waiver is to combine the preliminary and final plans, very typical in a project like this. The second one is a partial waiver to have a sidewalk run along Ellis Lane and not along Stroudsburg Road. And there's a number of reasons why we've requested that have been very thoughtfully considered, namely a topographical and utility pole issue with the site that simply make it nearly impossible to complete. The third is to have that sidewalk be 4 feet instead of 5 feet, still be ADA compliant, but just 4 instead of 5 feet. And lastly, for stormwater pipes to be less than 15 inches, all of which meet NDPS standards, which we currently have a permit for. I think it's worth noting that when we went to the Planning Commission, we had a very thoughtful discussion about all of these items. It was lengthy, we reviewed them in depth, and we received overwhelming support from the Planning Commission, not just for the waivers, but for the project as a whole. Just to bring my statements to close here, I want to bring you up to speed with where we're at through the project. So we've completed our land development submission. We've received our NPDS permit. We received a sewer planning exemption. We've addressed all comments from third parties and engineers, consultants, of which there are many, and we're working through our final agreements with the township to prepare them for review. For all the reasons I've stated, we're extremely excited about this project. I grew up going to the East Goshen Fair. It's extremely rewarding for us to have a project that we feel is going to be a contributing asset to the community, one of which has been the subject of a lot of discussion, a lot of review, and a lot of work, quite frankly, that I think we can all be proud of. It also is important to note this represents the most attainable housing you can build today. A single-family house is, for new constructions, well over $1 million. These are not intended to be million-dollar townhomes either. We really want to meet the needs of the community, meet the needs of the market where they're at, to give new homeowners, people who are moving, maybe have an upgrade, a chance to get into a new home where otherwise, quite frankly, it doesn't exist today. So it's through this careful planning and collaboration that we're extremely pleased and proud to be here tonight to share our plan and to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
I'd just like to reiterate at the planning commission meeting, one question I asked was if you're going to be providing that conduit from the panel to the outside of the garage area where the electric vehicle may be parked, and you said you would, so you have no issues at all with that, so thank you for that. Overwhelmingly, I think it was like an 8-to-1 vote to recommend. The only concern, though, was the sidewalks that were being proposed at this time. You're just, at this point, just going to have sidewalks along,
Hang on a second, I bring up the pen to show it to you.
just along Ellis there. And you made a strong case for why the sidewalks along East Stroudsburg Road would not be terribly feasible. And we had a similar situation just recently brought up with a development being proposed at 800 East Virginia Avenue, where sidewalks are being required along Lincoln and Garfield Avenue, and they made a similar case that sidewalks should not be appropriate because of the trees that would have to be removed, some of which are rather large. So in lieu of putting in sidewalks, they agreed to put in monies into a fund that could be utilized for other sidewalks that might be more reasonably installed within the township rather than along East Stroudsburg Road. Would you be amenable to something like that?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's tough to say. I think we'd certainly work with the township on something like that. It's, when we get into a project that where we haven't maxed out the density, where we are trying to have a product that is not ultra high-end luxury, that's still fantastically beautiful, some of those expenses do become a little bit more difficult to not pass on to the homeowner. That said, you know, as a resident, we understand the need for sidewalks, so we would absolutely be open to contributing to, you know, fee in lieu of for that Stroudsburg Road sidewalk.
Well, with that being said, Kristen, could we add an item in this, or do you want to make this a separate resolution? Or?
No, we would want to change this because this was drafted with me not knowing what the board's, how you're going to decide on the request for the waiver. I know just in past conversations, it's been policy, you know, the board has actually adopted the ordinance for the sidewalk. So I put in condition number 4, did speak with Ms. Gerber, that that condition would come out if the board felt the waiver was appropriate. So we would revise condition 4 to indicate that the board was willing to grant that waiver, but you wanted the applicant to pay a fee in lieu of sidewalk, and we'd have to discuss. I can't remember how we did it for the 800 East Virginia. Was it we would determine what the opinion of probable cost was for the length of sidewalk?
Yes, so the opinion of probable cost for the length of sidewalk would be presented by the applicant's engineer, be reviewed by Brian as part of his review of the financial security, and that would set the fee in lieu of amount. It would be escrowed as part of their construction documents. That's exactly how we did it for that project.
It would be, it's a separate escrow.
Well, it's a separate payment.
Yes.
It's not escrow. It's an actual payment that's being held in a township account for purposes of installing sidewalk elsewhere.
And members of the board, I saw their legal counsel nodding, so I'm assuming that that's okay. Yeah.
So the motion would have to be revised on page 3. I did hand you, Brian copied for me because there were some additional requests from Ms. Gerber for additional edits from the version that Chris had printed, so I apologize for that. But we would change the waiver section to indicate that you were granting the waiver. Well, actually, it's just down in 4. We would say that, you know, you're granting the waiver from section 72, 24.2a to not require the sidewalk in East Stroudsburg, provided the applicant pay a fee in lieu for the value of the sidewalk that would have been installed in an amount determined by the township engineer or something to that effect. The other changes that she had requested, which Brian and I did not have any problem with, was with respect to condition number 3. So it's Brian's understanding and communicating with our traffic engineer as well as Pannoni, which is East Goshen's traffic engineer, that what you are proposing to do with the existing traffic signal does require East Goshen Township to adopt a resolution to be submitted to PennDOT for them to approve whatever modifications being made, because East Goshen owns that traffic signal. So she wanted me to add the language to the extent necessary, which I had no problem with. But she also wanted it to be, and Brian had no problem with it, that coordination and confirmation that occurs, they'll be able to perform site work and earth disturbance work. They just won't be able to get a building permit for a new dwelling, for any one of the 14 townhomes. They wanted the opportunity, if they were going to start renovations of the 2 existing dwellings, that be done through a building permit process that's sort of independent of land development. And they wanted the ability to do that potentially in advance of whatever East Goshen and PennDOT do. And Brian and I didn't have any concerns with that. So that was the suggested change to condition number 3. So condition 3 would be as it's shown on this modified version, and condition 4 would be revised as I discussed.
Okay.
Also, just one other minor change on page 3, conditions included on number 4. Just change along East Charles Brook to read along Alice Lane.
Well, that's coming out. Yeah, that's coming out.
This is a revised one.
And I got one fine.
I know.
It's still hard to keep up.
I accept responsibility for that.
That's the problem. We'll work through it. We'll get
Well, no, Brian was out. I mean, it's fine. She tried to get in touch with us last week. We had to communicate, it's one of these things. So 4 will be changed. The plans do show sidewalk along Ellis. So by approving the plans with the date referenced, you are requiring them to put those sidewalks in. I do have 2 questions to the board though. The question that John asked about the conduit, is that somehow shown on the
I
plans?
think it's documented in a note, but if not, I'll confirm.
That's fine. Okay, so that's on a note. And then
For Kirkland Woods.
the other question was, you had made a reference to, and we appreciate it, something that the Historical Commission had requested of you, but I don't believe that's anywhere documented. I didn't know if the board felt that that was something that you wanted them to document. You agreed to do some documentation of the history of the property.
It's already been done, yeah.
Is that something you're supplying to the HC?
No, so I reached out to them prior to us really doing anything. And the Historic Commission confirmed they have what they would want in terms of documentation.
Okay, it doesn't sound like we need a
Not
commission.
action.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Kristen, 6 is how it was written for 800 East Virginia. That's in the decision for
Okay.
how you wrote for that one.
Yep, we'll look at that. Yeah.
I guess it is maybe helpful to add that sidewalk along Ellis does mean that there are some mature trees that will be removed that otherwise would stay. I mean, that was just a kind of a byproduct of improving the pedestrian safety along with all the other things. So it is a trade-off. It's a rock and a hard place, but that is obviously going to be shown in the plans, and I just want to make that point.
Thank you. I had a question for Brian on the request for a waiver on the stormwater pipe diameter less than 15 inches. So can you just walk through there why we have that standard and why it's not necessary in this particular circumstance?
It's a blanket statement in our stormwater ordinance, and if you want to use as a developer your design of your stormwater system may be better off because you have a 12-inch discharge pipe. You can't use 12 inches to choke the pipe down. You have to. So also the issue is on this one is their roof drains drain directly into some of the VMPs, and that is considered an advanced pipe as our stormwater ordinance is written. So they would have to run a 15-inch pipe off of each roof instead of 8-inch, instead of a normal pipe roof leader, the way the stormwater ordinance is written. So the stormwater design was evaluated by Carroll Engineering. I did check it as well, and I have no issue or reservations with the request to use small pipes.
Okay, and then on the waiver for the sidewalk width being 4 feet instead of normal 5 feet, what conversation you had with the planning commission on that? And
the only comment I made about it was that ADA requires to have passing zones every so many feet, and PennDOT standards for building a sidewalk in a right-of-way requires that as well, so they're going to have to provide the passing zones. If you provide a 5-foot sidewalk, you don't need any passing zones, but if you don't provide a 5-foot sidewalk, you have to provide passing zones, and that is ADA and PennDOT standard, and that was what I recommended in my letter as far as a condition for that waiver.
And because this resolution references they have to comply with any comments in your letter, you feel that's appropriately documented?
Yes.
Okay.
So they will provide the ADA compliant sidewalk along Ellis
Okay,
as far as the width and the passing zones.
okay.
That's part of why those trees had to come out.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board on the conditions of approval? Okay, so then we're looking for someone to make a motion from the board to approve resolution number 37, 2025.
I'll make that motion with the changes we discussed.
These are specific changes that discussed are a modification to condition number 3. As
4.
Hang on, number 3 that was provided to the board this evening.
Oh, yes.
About the building
Yep.
permit
Mhm.
for the new dwelling unit, etc., that was agreeable.
Yes.
The applicant and ourselves, and also a change this evening related to number 4, which is the agreement to provide a fee in lieu of a sidewalk along East Strasbourg with the language that we saw previously discussed. And is there a second? Thank you, Ashley. So we have a motion. Is there a second? Is there any public comment or questions about the approval? Steve?
Yeah, I'm just curious, you mentioned they want to be $1 million. Is there a price point range that you're looking at?
It's a great question. So we're at about 2,000 square feet. Our objective is to be right at that 500,000, maybe some of the bigger units get into 600,000. Just before this, I did a quick look to see the median sale price in West Goshen Township was approaching 700,000. So if we can be below that with a new construction product, that's still beautiful. That was our objective.
Great.
A quick couple of questions from me. So I presume at this stage you're being so well advanced, you have secured financing for the full construction. And what does the construction schedule look like from this point?
Depending on tonight, but no, we would like to, in the next several weeks, get all the agreements completed, and then after we record the plan, to begin site work, which approximately, if weather keeps up like this, will be 6 months. If we get a warm spell, it could be 4 months, and then vertical construction thereafter.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Okay, next on the agenda is item number 7, discussion regarding a request to vacate a portion of Brandywine Parkway and turn the property over to Teva Pharmaceutical. Kristen?
Yes, so I believe that the owner had come to a public meeting previously. They are looking to have the board agree to vacate Brandywine Parkway from Airport Road all the way through where it ends, I guess in a cul-de-sac in the back. The Second Class Township Code authorizes the board to vacate public roads by 2 methods. One is to enact an ordinance, and the second is to have agreement by all property owners who would be affected or impacted by the vacation of the public road. In this instance, the board had asked the TIVA to go back to all the property owners who not only utilize Brandywine Parkway, because I don't think there's anyone else that uses it as a means of access, but potentially at some future point could come back to the board and ask for access. So we asked them to go back to all of the property owners whose property has frontage on the portion of the road to be vacated. That took them some time, understandably, with some property owners not being local, and they were able to obtain the consent from all of the property owners who are listed in this road vacation agreement. They wanted to make sure the board, they didn't get the signatures yet because they wanted to make sure the board was still comfortable. It is at your discretion to do this. And so this agreement has been prepared by their counsel, Mr. Max O'Keefe, excuse me, and I'm fine with the language of it. I think it meets the requirements of the Second Class Code. This agreement would have to be signed by all the affected property owners, signed by the board, and then recorded in the Recorder of Deeds. And thereafter, by operation of law, then the road typically goes to the abutting property owners from the center line, but in this case, because the dedication was from the predecessor of TIVA, the entire road would go, by operation of law, revert back to them. And it would continue to be used as a private road, and the agreement spells out that they would be responsible for any of the storm facilities located within the road, and any existing utility easements, those easements would continue to exist. They don't go away by nature of the road no longer being a public road. So this is for the board to consider. They wanted to know that you were comfortable with it. And what I would say is if you are, somebody could make a motion to agree to sign it once you're presented with the copy that's signed by all the affected property owners.
So questions from the board? Kristen?
Yeah, I have one question. On item 5 there, we talk about upon vacation, the parkway, what that means. It means that they will be responsible for maintenance of the stormwater, which you just mentioned. They shall not be responsible for any utilities. But can we add a line there stating something to the effect that TIVA shall be responsible for the maintenance, repair, signage, road striping, ice and snow removal of the vacated road? Maybe that's obvious, but at least if we're going to make an agreement here, I think we would state that.
Just the utilities, I think, actually, not the actual road itself.
Shall not be responsible for the maintenance of
Yeah.
I mean, I think your concept is fine. I'm not sure I'd put it in that paragraph, or if I would figure out, I would like to read it more carefully to figure out where I can convey that you would want it to be very clear in this agreement that upon vacation, any maintenance of the road itself that is deemed necessary is done by TIVA. I don't think we anymore can dictate what exactly has to happen on that roadway, and it's, you know, if they don't want to plow their snow, that's up to them. We don't. It's no longer a public road.
Maybe do it the other way around, so the township has no responsibility.
Yeah, that is by operation of law, but I have no problem adding that. Yeah, that's fine.
So is this private?
It will be a private road. Yeah, it will become.
As part of that, Kristen, could you also say that they accept it in its current as-is state?
That's a good point. Yep.
And then the only other question I have is, when I looked at the minutes from when this was publicly discussed, Chris made a comment that if we did decide to move forward with vacating the road, choosing the ladder, it's the ladder. It was our recommendation that the agreement stipulate the road would remain private and not be referred to or re-offered for dedication. Does that apply here, or is that for that other option?
Well, I believe, if I'm remembering my statement from July of 2024 correctly, I believe that I was saying that if we turn this back, if the board agrees to turn the road back to TEVA and make it a private road, that they can't come back in the future and say, we don't want to do this, so here, you township have it back and take over our responsibility.
Well, you would have the obligation, you could say no at that point.
Sure.
So I don't know if you want to bind a future board to forever say no.
Yeah, I would.
And I just think you don't know what other things might happen, a redevelopment of other property may be in your benefit to take it back. So I think you leave that open, but it's always the discretion of the board at that point.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Anyone else? No. So tonight, Chrissy, you mentioned that we should look to potentially approve the agreement. Well, you have some change.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think they just I need to run these by Max. Sounds, your representative from TIVA is here. Would you be comfortable with those two changes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, we'll work with him to get that language. It's pretty straightforward. They would then go get it signed, present it back, and it can come back to you as an agenda item. It should be pretty quick at that point in time.
Guess we've been working on it long enough, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is continued discussion and possible approval of a proposal from Carroll Engineering Corporation for due diligence soil and groundwater sampling for the Goose Creek floodplain restoration project. And Chris, you have this item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So before the board this evening is continued discussion regarding a proposal from Carroll Engineering Corporation for due diligence soil and groundwater sampling for the Goose Creek floodplain restoration project. This proposal was originally reviewed in June and previously discussed at the December 2nd meeting of the board. During that discussion, there were some questions regarding the sampling methodology outlined in the proposal. It is my understanding that those items have been addressed and the proposal is in a position to be considered for approval. So the attached proposal before the board sets a not to exceed fee of $20,445, which represents a $545 increase when compared to the original proposal discussed in June. It is my understanding that, the questions about the sampling methodology were raised by Ms. Smith, who's not here this evening, but I have had some communication with her, and it's my understanding that she spoke with Adam Pellick from Carroll Engineering, discussed the sampling methodology, and was in agreement with what was being proposed.
Yes, I've also received information from Tina about that, so it sounds good. So proposal is as originally presented at the last time we looked at it. So I only have one question for Brian. So as this project moves ahead, if we do approve this tonight, there was, I believe, land studies indicated there was a grant available to use for the design work. So do we have any clarity as to whether that's still available or?
We haven't, that was mentioned in the presentation from Ben Mueller. We haven't pursued anything past that, what he mentioned in the presentation. I believe that grant was part of the Goose Creek Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the Goose Creek Alliance money. So I think we could potentially reach out to the Alliance and see if they still have the grant, if it's still available. But at this point, I think the grant would be better spent if we can get it on the actual design work and not on the testing.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes.
was kind of thinking ahead here, like if okay, the testing gets done here in the next 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever it is, and then we're back with land studies, what's the next step?
Yeah, and land studies being involved with them, once we get the testing information, then we can reach out to land studies about getting the proposal and also having them bring us more information about the grant, because they're involved in the grant
Okay.
with Goose Creek. We're reaching out directly to, if we can use the channel through land studies to come back with that information as part of their next proposal for the design.
Okay, very good. So at this point, we just need to make sure we don't have an issue here with contamination, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, then I will make a motion to approve the proposal from Carroll Engineering for the due diligence soil and groundwater sampling for Goose Creek floodplain restoration project for a not to exceed fee of $20,445. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Any public comment or questions on the motion? All right, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 9 is discussion and possible approval of certain amendments to the West Goshen Township non-uniform personnel policy. And this is with Chris, I believe. That was with the board. Okay, so before the board this evening, I'll propose amendments to the West Goshen Township non-uniform personnel policy. The board adopted a new non-uniform personnel policy on December 19th, 2023, with adoption of Resolution 32, 2023. The provisions outlined before the board are intended to update certain sections of existing personnel policy. Please be advised these policy amendments have been reviewed by the Township's Labor Council. Okay, so does the board have any questions on the update to the non-uniform personnel policy? Chris, is there any comments you'd like to make on the updates?
These are just intended to sort of capture any existing practices that weren't previously documented, as well as to clarify a few items.
Okay.
And I've incorporated any comments that Scott had, which were very minor, into what's before the board.
Okay.
You've incorporated those?
Yep. Yes. And again, they were very minor.
Okay.
All right, then, so looking, is a board member willing to make a motion to approve these amendments to the Township non-uniform personnel policy?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ashley. Is there any public comments or questions?
Just a clarification for the on-call pay. Chris said there's 2 public works employees and 2 sewer employees will be available for emergencies. Is that going to be for 24 hours?
They're actually put on call for a 1-week period. It runs from Friday to Thursday of each week.
So they would be available at any time? Okay.
I don't know, they get contacted by the police department for whenever those issues come out. They issue, an email is issued listing who's on call and their contact information.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 10 is a discussion regarding a proposal from the PA Department of Transportation to prohibit pedestrian access at certain locations in West Goshen Township. Chris, could you introduce this one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So before the board this evening is discussion regarding a proposal from the PA Department of Transportation to restrict pedestrian access, pedestrian crossing at certain locations along Paley Pike. The subject areas are at the intersections of Paley Pike with Patrick Avenue, Turner Avenue, and Thomas Avenue. So this was essentially the result of a pedestrian study that was conducted by PennDOT in these areas. The referenced intersections triggered banned pedestrian crossings due to sidewalk projection across Paley Pike, and PennDOT is requesting the township's concurrence with prohibiting pedestrian crossings at these locations. Pedestrian study was provided, and I provided that to the board along with a map outlining the study area. I did ask the township traffic engineer, Andrew Parker with McCormick Taylor, to review the proposal, and I provided his comments where he indicates concurrence with the proposal. And then going forward, if installed, the township would be responsible for maintaining the signage that's ultimately installed at these locations. If I'm remembering Andy's comments correctly, I believe his primary concurrence was that these are not signalized intersections and they're pedestrian crossings at other signalized intersections close by.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Chris?
Yeah, I have one. So what happens if somebody is caught crossing at a prohibited area? Is there a fine associated with the incident?
I will look to Chief Carroll for that. I believe there is. And we have prohibitions against pedestrian crossing at other locations in the township. One that immediately comes to mind is the intersection of Matlack Street and Route 202.
Has there been an uptick of people crossing now that like Target's open?
I would assume so, but I'm not 100% sure.
I know people who live on Patrick who work at a Target, and I assume, and I know they walk, so, but they would only have to, I guess, go down to the nearest crossing, which is not that far.
Yeah. And I believe, Brian, is there sidewalk on the opposite side of Paley Pike?
Not complete, no.
Okay, just sporadically.
Yes. And I highlighted on the plan on the screen, I highlighted in yellow, you see the signage that they're proposing for the crossings. And additionally, in this proposal, they're proposing 4 ADA ramps here at 5 Points. Okay. Probably because of results of the multiple lawsuits that PennDOT has lost about not providing ADA access that's why they call them the ramps to nowhere. They're all over the state. So there's a belief of the law firms out of Erie that keeps putting the lawsuits and keeps winning them.
For these prohibited locations, aren't there some curb cuts as well? Because if there was going to be a sidewalk installed at some point, do they have to be removed, or these new prohibited locations? The actual curbing on the side of Paley Pike has cuts in it as if there was going to be a pedestrian crossing. So if you're going to say it's never going to happen, should they be replaced? Just a question.
Could it ever be retrofitted, Brian, that you would allow crossing there?
That would be controlled by PennDOT. Just drop in here, give me a second. So like here's Turner, there's a sidewalk that comes around and then picks up on the other side, just here in the corner at the back. So there isn't, if there is a curb, it's kind of here, the curb ramp, it's
probably one of the other.
Does the sidewalk extend down there?
no, see, it ends,
So
it ends,
anyone who wants to cross over is
They
going
gotta
to have to
walk
walk
on the grass.
grass.
and then here you got coming across. And the same thing here, the sidewalk is just a partial sidewalk that goes down here inside. Over here, this sidewalk extends a lot further down.
See, is that a curb cut there, though, Brian, or was it a driveway further back there?
Right here.
Yeah,
It's
They
a
don't
driveway.
actually need our permission, right? They just want our.
They want our concurrence.
Concurrence.
Yes.
Yes, because once the signs go in, there are signs.
One other interesting note about these 3 locations, 2 of the 3 intersections are with private roads. Thomas Avenue and Turner Avenue are both private roadways. Patrick Avenue is a township road.
I'm just curious, and brought up an issue about the sidewalks just stopping. Yeah, but would that be within the right of way of, that would be a state road?
Yeah.
So we couldn't just go ahead and put a sidewalk in there, could we? We have to do that.
And then putting a sidewalk in, you're also putting it on each of those property owners that have the homeowners.
That's what I was asking if it was within the easement or not.
No, it would be in the right of way, in the right of way.
That's what we got.
But it would be putting it in, we could do it for the PennDOT standards again, and then each property owner, when you add my understanding is when you add sidewalk in a PennDOT right of way, PennDOT requires all the homeowners, property owners will want to sign off on it, because PennDOT
To agree to it.
to agree to it because of them getting the maintenance responsibilities in the right of way. It's not,
I think under the second class code, you have the right when there's sidewalks to require the property owners to maintain them. I'm not sure that's PennDOT needing you to get the consent. You need their consent to put it in the right of way, but I don't think PennDOT requires you to get the property owner's consent. Because the second class code authorizes you to shift the maintenance obligations for a sidewalk to an adjacent property owner.
I mean, if you're legal, but I think the property owner has to some kind of basically agree to allow this work in there.
Official.
That's my understanding, talking to, I forget which traffic engineer spoke to about
If we don't have a choice about it,
Yeah.
we have to.
it. PennDOT's going to put it in whether or not we agree. with it.
Okay.
This is one of those situations where the township is going to be bound, so, and this is a new installation.
Then here's-
as
Mike,
opposed
do
to
you think
existing.
that people are gonna like heed these signs?
But it doesn't help you though if somebody does it and then tries to sue.
We did have a Kristen's 100% correct. We did have a situation where someone attempted to file a claim against us for a pedestrian strike at an intersection that was marked for no pedestrian crossing, and we got removed from it because there was properly signed for no pedestrian
Is it
crossing.
a state road or a township road?
State road.
Yeah, they bring you in no
Intersection-
matter what. I mean, even-
Intersection of state and township.
So I think it's good that if you go on record saying you support that there's no crossing and that the appropriate signage be installed, because then doesn't the township have to maintain the signage even on a state road? Yeah.
The only thing we don't maintain on State Road, I believe we maintain the signage.
Yeah,
signage.
I thought so
We
too.
don't maintain the speed limit signs or PennDOT, but I think the other ones are ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, PennDOT, in their email, PennDOT specifically said that the township will be responsible for the maintenance of the sign.
So I think it's helpful that there's going to be a public record, assuming that the board votes for it, that supports the fact that you agree that pedestrians should not be crossing there and that the appropriate signage will be installed, so that if somebody does it, then it's negligence per se, I think.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you already had a claim brought. Okay, yeah.
Attempted.
Good to know.
Any other questions? Okay, so looking for a board member to agree to approve the proposal from the Department of Transportation to prohibit pedestrian access and crossings at the 3 locations indicated this evening. Is there a board member willing to make that motion? Thank you. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Thank you, Nate. Any public comment or questions? Steve?
Yeah, just point of fact, the comprehensive plan does recommend a sidewalk out to 5 points underneath 202 Woolwich. I'm not sure if I'll see my lifetime.
We have something in flight that we're trying to work a little bit on, so maybe one step at a time, right?
That's what I'm just saying.
Any other comments or questions? All right, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 11, discussion regarding the possibility of participating with East Goshen Township in the submission of the Green Light Go grant application. Brian, I believe this was with you. Could you introduce it, please?
Yes, that's, so East Goshen Township is taking the lead to apply for a Green Light Go grant to obtain funds through the grant to have maintenance funds on hand for maintaining and operating the Rhythm Corridor, the Rhythm Signal Corridor on Route 3. So currently, how it works with Rhythm is we're in a contract that expires at the end of this year where we pay $1,000 per year per intersection for the right to call Rhythm to have technical support. If there needs to be on-site support from Rhythm to work on the equipment. They have a single contractor. I believe the guy's name is Tony. He used to work for Rhythm. He doesn't anymore. He's an independent contractor now. Where he would come out to do the actual equipment work and would do that work, and then we would get billed for that. This grant would allow us to, would, if funded, would give us $15,000 for each of our intersections to, in the mind of East Goshen, the traffic engineer for East Goshen, PennDOT, would allow us to have 3 years of maintenance. They figured $15,000 is enough to cover 3 years of maintenance per intersection. It's a lump sum pot that we would get. If we need more in one intersection, less than another, there isn't anything binding that each intersection only gets $15,000. It's just a blanket number that they've assigned for the grant. But we would get a pot of money of 6 times 15,000 minus our match in the grant. If the grant is awarded, then we would be responsible for up to the match amount in the grant. That's my understanding. The application is going in soon, I think, if I've not already submitted.
I don't
So
remember
there's
the
nothing.
deadline.
My understanding is there's nothing that we need to do as a township to, other than to acknowledge we support the grant. There's no motion, there's no resolution, there's no letter, it's just because we're bringing, Chris and I are bringing it to you because it just came to my attention, what, 3 weeks ago? I brought it to you? Yes. So this came about fairly quickly with PennDOT and with East Goshen taking the lead. I know Rhythm has potentially had some issues as a company. They're out of Kansas, I believe they're out of Kansas City. And so that is what's just more of an information purpose that is all here for.
So the local match would be, under the grant program, would be $3,000 per intersection, so it would be $15,000. And East Goshen provided us with a copy of their application as well as an executive summary, which I provided to the board. So we'll cover, like Brian said, it'll cover 20% of the annual maintenance cost, or 80% of the annual maintenance cost. Our share is 20%.
So is Westtown a part of this, or are they not?
They're supposed to be. I believe they're reaching out to them as well. They have 3 intersections. I don't know the results of those discussions.
So what do they want from us?
Just to say that you support this going forward, and will participate if awarded.
So it's 5 intersections at $3,000 per intersection.
Would be our share. So it's $15,000 per intersection times 5, split 80% through the grant, 20% local match. The local match is $3,000, so $15,000 per year over 3 years, as opposed to $75,000 at $15,000 per intersection, if that was the cost.
What's the timing on the PennDOT grant approval, if they approve it? What is it? They said if they're going to submit it here, I know now we're going into the early January. What's the actual, are they going to PennDOT approve it in the spring? Or?
I don't know the grant.
Assuming there isn't another budget impasse, so hopefully relatively soon. And any of these grant applications, I always try to advise the board 8 months to a year, and if we hear sooner, then that's good.
I get the impression that PennDOT is on board with this because PennDOT is frustrated with Rhythm as well. So this might become a pilot program for elsewhere in the state of how to keep the Rhythm functioning.
And this is a program that's open annually, so I believe. So they might, turn these
I think
around
it's open more, I think
relatively
Greenlight Cove is more than once a year potentially.
It might be. I think there's 2 sessions.
Yeah. Isn't this the correct program that's funded from the red light cameras?
Yes.
Is there any reason the west limit was the 202 southbound route? Why wasn't it all the way into the borough?
Because that's where the corridor stops.
That's considered the stop.
That's where the section of the corridor that's controlled under the rhythm stops.
That makes sense. All right,
Well,
well,
that's my understanding in talking with the traffic engineer group, the guys from Easttown, that's where rhythm stops. It doesn't, because going into the borough, then you separate the
Yeah.
signals and they're not part of the same system.
All right, well, real quick, just to answer Mr. Woolman's question, do you know anything about the discussions with West Town? Because I haven't had any conversations.
I don't know
with
anything
you.
about Westtown either. I don't know if they've been on, I don't know if they're on board or not, I don't know. Well, obviously I know East Goshen's on board because they're leading it, and then we're next in line. If they're trying to, basically it's from 202 all the way down to 352, that's the order that they're looking to use this for maintenance.
So I know Brian stated that there doesn't need to be any kind of action or motion, but if the board wants to make a motion, just
I'm
have it
going to
on
do
the
that.
record.
I'm going to make a motion in support of this East Goshen-led submission of a Green Light Go grant application to PennDOT. Is there a second? Ashley, any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion passes 4-0. So we're successful. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 12, which is discussion and possible awarding of the 2026 fuel bid. Chris.
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening are the results of the 2026 fuel bids. Bids were advertised in the November 20th, 2025 and November 26th, 2025 editions of the Daily Local News. The bids were opened on December 11th, 2025 at the West Goshen Township Municipal Building. There was one bid received, and I'll read off the bid results. The one vendor was Riggins, Inc., who is the current provider for fuel for the township. The bid results were as follows. Unleaded gasoline, $1.78, 1.787 per gallon, with delivery charge of 24.5 cents per gallon, for a total charge of $2.032 cents per gallon. For ultra low sulfur diesel, it was 2.3942 per gallon, delivery charge of 38.7 cents per gallon, total charge 2.7812 per gallon. Low sulfur heating oil, 2.2570 per gallon, 89 cent per gallon delivery charge, total of 3.1470 per gallon. And dyed ultra low sulfur diesel fuel for the generator, 2.3820 per gallon, 67 cent per gallon delivery charge, for a total of 3.0520 per gallon. Then I provided the last 5 years of awards for this for fuel to show the differences between the current bid and what we paid in the past.
Thanks, Chris. I just note that the price for unleaded gasoline is actually a little less than this year's 2025's number, whereas the price for diesel is a little bit more. But overall, for those two, which are the high usage ones in this,
that's correct.
We should have some savings to the budget.
Well, I will note that the price for the actual fuel, we pay rack rate, so it fluctuates throughout the year based on the actual price for the fuel. The real thing that's being bid out is the delivery charge.
Yes.
That gets locked in.
Yeah.
So if you go through and you do an analysis of the usage and you look at the invoices, it does fluctuate throughout the year.
Good point. Okay.
I'm just curious, Chris, I mean, we put this out to bid for every year. Have we had no vendors in the past bid on this?
Not that I can recall during my tenure.
We're like the only shop in town, huh?
Well, you have to meet certain service requirements, right, in terms of response.
That's correct. That's correct. They have to meet certain service responsiveness. And also, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe one year when Mike Kakavo was here for this, he mentioned the one thing that pushes people away is the fuel for the generator. There's some people get pushed away from that. I don't know why, but I think that there was some discussion about that in the past.
There was.
Okay, there was.
Maybe we should break that out separately, bid separately then.
We could. We could talk about
we
doing that
didn't
for
get more
2027.
bidding. I'm not trying to.
I can talk to Mike about that. I think the price, looking at like where the prices have been over the last 5 years versus the bid results for this year, I do think we're doing pretty well with the bid results.
We don't see it constantly up a trend, right?
No. If anything, it's started to level off from the past years.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the award of the 2026 fuel bid to Riggins, Inc. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes 4-0. Agenda item 13 is request for healthcare coverage for Supervisor Ashley Garnier for 2026. So, before the board this evening is request for healthcare coverage for Supervisor Ashley Garnier. Article 6, Section 606 of the Pennsylvania Second Class Township Code authorizes members of the board to participate in a municipal healthcare plan. This section states as follows: supervisor inclusion in these plans does not require audit or approval, but does require submission of a letter requesting participation at a regularly scheduled meeting of the board of supervisors before commencing participation. Insurance should be uniformly applicable to those covered and shall not give eligibility preference or improperly discriminate in favor of supervisors. And Ashley submitted a request for insurance for 2026, so that's in compliance with the request. Does the board have any comments or questions? Yes. Does the board have any comments or questions? So is there any public comments or questions? Actually, I haven't had a motion yet, so I'll make a motion to approve request for healthcare coverage for Supervisor Ashley Garnier for 2026. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any public comments or questions? Okay, I did receive one by email from Ms. Swart. She asked about if the township has a policy in place regarding supervisors' participation in township health plans. Chris, you have any information on that?
I went through every resolution book in our possession that goes back to the 1970s through 2020, through my tenure through 2021, and I did not find anything.
Okay, so we don't have a specific township policy, but we're just following the PA second class township law with this respect in terms of supervisor participation in healthcare plans.
That's correct, and the elected board of supervisors are not subject to the provisions outlined in the non-uniform personnel policy.
Thank you. Okay. All right, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition?
I don't know if I should abstain. Is that, I'll abstain.
Fine.
Okay.
You're not guilty.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we already vote? Yes. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Ashley abstained. Very good. We'll move on to agenda item number 14, which is reports for the month of November 2025. We start off with the police report presented by Chief Michael Carroll.
Thank you. The report for the police department for November 2025, we responded to 1,961 calls for service. 57 of those were alarms, and 3 of those alarms were found to be valid. We responded to 88 accidents, 16 of which were reportable accidents, and we drove a total of 17,262 miles. In the area of the alarm violations, 7 of those were of the 6th or 7th violation of the year, which is the highest fine rate, while 36 were of the 1st or 2nd violation of the year, which is no fine, just a warning. We performed a total of 19 assists to other departments for just over 12 hours, and we received 11 assists from other departments. We performed extra traffic enforcement on Lincoln Avenue, Snyder Avenue, and Aram Avenue, South High Street, South Five Punch Road, South New Street, Bailey Pike, Taylor's Mill Road, and East Market Street. Aside from our normal monthly training, we completed the department-wide fall range training and our patrol tactics training. All of our range instructors attended up range instructor training. Officer Grider attended basic SRO officer training. Lieutenant Grandizio continued his Northwestern School Police Staff and Command. Detectives, three of our detectives, Detectives Torres, Cuddy, and May, attended Navigating Cellbrite Reader Reports, which is a cell phone system. Officer Riley attended an Advanced Master of Instructor Development class. Detective May attended a SWAT team leader training. Detective Edwards attended a street surveillance techniques training. And Lieutenant Cotter and Sergeant Holman attended a responder resiliency and leadership training. We also, the charity, Blueberries for Charity, that we've been participating with, isn't over yet. It's not over for us until the end of the year. However, we did make our presentations and collected just over $50,000 for 5 local charities.
Lovely, well done.
And that is the report from the police department. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Is there any questions for the police department from the board?
Just a couple of questions, Mike. I noticed a couple of vehicles here have no mileage, 5240 and 5249. Are they disabled or out of service?
Yes, they were. There's been a slew of vehicles out of service. A couple accidents, a couple mechanical issues.
And what is the status of the next police community meeting? I know we had some discussion about doing sometime in the spring or something like that with the borough. What's the status of that?
So I've asked the borough to choose one of the Thursdays in March. If we can have it there, I'm waiting for that.
And I just want to commend the police department for doing the gifts collection this year. They'll be delivered to the defense department. So I think that's a great activity that's done every year by the police department. And I fully support it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to echo that and also say we are grateful for the police department throughout the year for everything you do. Your leadership in the wider police community is recognized and valued, and thank you for your professionalism and to all the officers as well.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to the next item. By the way, there is also information available from both Good Fellowship Ambulance and our Westchester Fire Department, Goshen Fire, as well, that the board receives. Is that, do you post that, or is that, I forget if you do?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's available for public review as well. So agenda item number 15 is Board of Supervisors announcements. I'm going to start to my right with Ashley.
So I attended a CATO meeting, which is the Chester County Association for Township Officials, just a few days ago. We have a new president of CATO, very strong, small organization for Chester County, but looking forward to a good year after that. And I also want to commend Ken and the Parks Department for the winter Wanderlights display that's up in the park right now. It's really beautiful. If you haven't had a chance to get over there to see it, I encourage you to go. They'll be up until beginning of January. So well done to Parks Department for working really hard to get that.
Yeah, on Thursday, November 20th, I participated in tabletop exercise here at the Township Building with the Chester County Department of Emergency Services. And it focused it on 2 different types of situations. One was cyber attacks upon the township's IT's infrastructure, and also a mass shooting event. We had a good discussion there amongst all the players who came to the table.
John, were there some specific actions for West Goshen Township out of that?
Well, that was a good question, because a lot of the, like the cyber attacks, there just was discussion about how to react to such an event. Chris, I don't know, maybe you would expand on that a little more.
They talked a lot about response to a cyber attack. You know, we have cybersecurity insurance coverage if something were to occur, notify your cyber insurance carrier, and obviously the police department. And they talked about phishing exercises through email. As the board and everybody's aware, we get emails regularly pretending to be people who work here, and we forward those directly to our IT provider to block from communicating with all westgoshen.org email addresses. So.
Then on the mass shooting event, there's been, with the police department, there's been a lot of exercises done, not only with townships, but also with the school districts as well, so there was some discussion. Then on Friday, November 21st, I attended the West Goshen Township's Community Park Holiday Light Display that Ashley just mentioned, and it was pretty impressive. And I got comments from a lot of folks who were there about how great this was, and I'm very thankful for the township for putting it on. And on Tuesday, December 9th, I attended a webinar on the police department accreditation program presented by Mexico. Please.
Thank you, John. Nate?
Okay, Thursday, November 20th, I also attended the tabletop session. Friday, November 21st, I also attended the Holiday Light Celebration, which was fantastic. Thursday, December 11th, I attended the West Goshen Historic Commission. Monday, December 15th, attended the America 250 West Goshen area meeting via Zoom. Today I attended the America 250 planning meeting, and in accordance with that, there's a number of items coming up. The first being the 22nd of January. Here we have Michael Harris, who was an author on Revolutionary War, giving a lecture. On February 25th at the East Goshen Township building, Noah Lewis, who is a reenactor of Ned Hector, who was a black soldier during the Revolution. And then into November, this is just something I hadn't mentioned before, Tom McGuire here on Thursday, November 12th, another author going to be giving a lecture. And I also went on the trip to New York that Ken sponsored, and that was a fantastic trip. That's it.
Chris, have we posted these upcoming events for the America 250 that Nate was referring to? I mean, there's some that are coming up pretty quickly here.
We're hosting the one on January 22nd for Mr.
Have we
Harris.
put it as a news item? Is it going to be in the newsletter that's coming out later this week?
I believe so, yes.
It is, okay.
It's going to be not in conjunction, but kind of in place of the regularly scheduled historical commission meeting for that night.
Okay.
So we're sharing hosting responsibilities. Is my understanding, and Ms. Wolin, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that we're sharing certain hosting responsibilities for the events with East Goshen. The large events over the summer are going to be at East Goshen Park just because they have the space to do all that.
And that will be on May 30th.
Yeah. Okay, so my announcements are the board met in executive session on November the 21st to review performance management objectives with the township manager. And we also, the board conducted its annual performance assessment of the township manager and chief of police. On December the 2nd, we met in executive session to complete that annual performance assessment process. And we also discussed a personnel matter with the HR director and the township manager. And I also took advantage of the New York City bus trip on December the 6th, and it's a great day out. Okay, agenda item number 6. Oh, is there any questions or questions for the board? No. Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item number 16, township manager's announcements. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, before I go through my announcements, I want to commend all the work that the members of our Public Works Department and our Police Department did during the storm Saturday into Sunday. Our Public Works crew was here for, I want to say, 15 hours working the storm overnight. They did an exceptional job as always. And in speaking with Mark via email, they got more snow than they were originally anticipated. I haven't seen official totals except for what I saw on the news, but they would align with what Mark sent me, which was an estimate of like 7 to 10 inches. So they did a great job.
Well done.
And they even, I saw them brining the streets on Friday as I was driving around, and so they were fully prepared. And thank you to the police department for all the officers who worked during the storm as well. So in terms of announcements, the township offices will close at 12 p.m. on Wednesday, December 24th for Christmas Eve, and will be closed on Thursday, December 25th in recognition of the Christmas holiday. Trash and bulk item collection will be adjusted to Friday, December 26th for that week on the second day. The township's monthly e-newsletter will be issued on December 19th. As a reminder to the board, the annual organizational meeting will be held on January 5th, 2026 at 5 p.m. I have arranged for the Honorable Judge Deborah Ryan to swear in all newly elected officials, and there will be no board meeting on January 6th. So there will be a few business items that will come before the board on January 5th. In terms of ordinances that are under review, the landscaping requirements that have been discussed were reviewed by the Sustainability Advisory Committee at their meeting on November 25th. These were forwarded to the Planning Commission and were discussed at their meeting on December 9th. I do not have a timeline for this at this time, but it's my understanding that the Planning Commission would like to coordinate this with the new zoning ordinance. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, the commission was in favor of waiting until they get to review the full ordinance at the joint meeting And also, would like to have the opportunity to have one ordinance update for the subdivision and not do it in pieces. Would that be a fair statement, John?
Yep.
Because that was basically their takeaway from the meeting was, if you're gonna do just landscaping, why don't you do the rest, and you have to do the zoning at the same time. And they were questioning if this is, why do we do this now when the zoning ordinance update is happening, why don't we just let this happen naturally as part of the process? So.
And then in terms of the historic resource ordinance, we prepared a letter to property owners that are outlined in the registry that we'll be sending out by the end of this week. That was sent to Mr. Woolman as the liaison to the Historic Commission, as well as the chair of the Historic Commission, Michael Pilligali, I believe, was also forwarded to the entire Historic Commission as well. And I did provide a copy of the Board of Supervisors this afternoon. So that should be going out this afternoon. And as a reminder, we'll do a joint meeting on this on February 26, 2026 with the Historic Commission. I did the advertisement for the 2026 meeting schedule, and I did include that as a special meeting.
So the meeting on the 26th, is that going to be including the homeowners as well?
Yes.
All right, so that's going to be all the homeowners as well as the historical commission and the board?
Yes, we're going to have to get a bunch of extra tables. But it is going to be a joint meeting between, it's the regularly scheduled meeting night for the Historic Commission, so it'll be a joint meeting between the Historic Commission and the board to discuss the proposed historic ordinance. And I've outlined in the letter that will go out what the ordinance does and what the ordinance does not. Just trying to make it a little bit clearer to people.
So, is that, at that meeting on the 26th, is the board chair going to be the lead for the meeting, or are we looking to the Historic Commission chair to lead the meeting?
So I've done these joint meetings in the past, and whatever the regularly scheduled night is for that particular body is who I've had chair of the meeting, but that is certainly at the discretion of the board and at the Historic Commission, so I will leave that up to you and Mr. Pilligali to determine.
Okay. Well, we'll wait to see who the new chair is in January. They can figure it out.
I will leave that up to the board and the Historical Commission to determine.
Thank you.
Other ordinances, so the ordinance amendments to Chapter 66 that were discussed at the last meeting will be before the board at the January 20th meeting, as well as an amendment to Chapter 78, which are vehicles and traffic. Brian has worked with our solicitor, as well as I believe our traffic safety division within the police department for some updates to the vehicle and traffic safety section of our code, and those will be discussed for an authorization to advertise at the January 5th board meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In terms of the Rosedale Avenue sidewalk project, the sidewalk project was completed on November 28th, so they met their substantial completion date. I did get pictures of the project for the e-newsletter that's coming up.
Is it covered in snow right now?
No, it was cleared. I'm assuming the church took care of it. I was out there yesterday and it was completely clear. There was not a single flake on that sidewalk. It was the clearest sidewalk I've ever seen. It looks great. The trees, the trees are very, very small, so you can't really tell that the trees are there, but they are there. For all the frustration that existed, the end product looks very nice. They are in the punch list phase. There is some grass growth that needs to be done in the spring, and some other stabilization work, but it does look nice. They've cleaned up most of the barrels that were going into Rosedale Avenue, but overall the project came out well. And I'm going to talk to Chris Peterson about how we should line up the reimbursement through the grant program, because there is going to be some money withheld because it hasn't been finalized yet.
So once they'll have to come back in the spring to do some seeding, is that correct?
That's correct.
So the final payment will be held up until that's done?
Yes, I believe Chris talked about withholding 5 or 10%. It's usually 10%, but I feel like he said 5 to me for this one, so there is going to be some retainage.
Okay.
In terms of the Westchester University Master Plan, we did receive the draft comments from Urban Engineers on Friday. I have not had an opportunity to review those. I don't know if Brian has had an opportunity to review them.
Was it a lot of information or fairly?
I believe it's about an 11-page letter, but I think 4 or 5 pages of its pictures that go with the comments.
I would agree.
So there's not a lot, it's not a heavy lift yet as far as the comments. I don't know if Shelby's had a chance to review it. I've not just reviewed it either.
I haven't had a chance to review this.
We have not had an update from the university related to the changes they are planning to make to the master plan. Like
No, we
going
haven't.
on to the parking garage.
We have not received any updated documents for those, any updated plan documents. I was hoping to have those by the end of November, but we did not see anything from the university. They are, if you recall back in October, I mentioned some demolition work that they're getting started to do. They are getting ready to do that demolition work in that area. And I did have
So
their.
that's in the borough, though, not in.
It's in the township.
It's in our township.
It's in the township, but they're not subject to our permitting requirements. It's all being done through the state. But I did ask their legal counsel, and he did provide us with copies of the permits that were issued by L&I.
Okay.
In terms of the park recreation and open space plan, we are going to have a steering committee meeting on January 14th to review the park recreation and open space plan that has been provided to the steering committee in order to begin their review. They've addressed the comments from myself, Mark Allen from Chester County, and Ken Lear, our Park and Recreation Director. So now it's in the hands of the steering committee to begin their review process, and it will come before the Board of Supervisors.
So we'll get February for that?
Well,
February for the board.
Hopefully. We'll see what comes out of the meeting on January 14th. And then in terms of the zoning ordinance, we received the draft zoning ordinance from Gilmore and Associates late last week. I want to say that came in on Friday as well, and that's been provided to the Land Planning Committee to begin their review process. And we will have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission on January 28th to review that. And we'll provide that to.
Will there be a land planning meeting ahead of that joint meeting or not?
The plan was to have the committee review the document, provide comments back to us, and then we'll provide it to the Land Planning Committee or everybody on the joint meeting by January 16th. There wasn't going to be a meeting in the interim.
And that's a special meeting, right?
Yes, and that has been included in our advertising for 2026.
Okay.
And then finally, the North Hill stormwater improvements were substantially completed on December 12th. The remaining items include the removal of ENS controls and final vegetation, which will occur in the spring. There will be one change order that will reduce the project cost by approximately $20,000, which is primarily due to less rock removal than anticipated and certain quantity adjustments.
So on that one, we were looking to complete the closeout of our American Rescue Plan fund through the North Hill projects and payments to that. So we're looking for invoicing on that, or versus having to accrue for the completed work.
We'll probably have to accrue. There was just an invoice recently, so there might be one. There's going to be one more invoice once they complete the final work in the spring.
Okay.
They just can't. The outstanding items just can't really be completed during this time of year.
Okay.
So those are the items that I have.
Thank you. Very comprehensive. Any questions for Chris?
Just want to get an update on the solar array project, and I noticed things are moving well along. It's been making electricity, and so where we at as far as submissions for reimbursements and so forth?
I'm putting everything together to get submitted to both PICO and to the IRS for the rebate program. We have our numbers and everything generated with the IRA reimbursement.
You're still collecting the 3 months of inverter data?
And with the issue related to PICO, they are going to credit us everything back through June 30th of 2025. So that issue's been resolved.
So what's up with the monitor?
Mike has been out. He's coming back in tomorrow. I did send him a picture of what was going on with the monitor. He was going to look at it when he gets back.
Also, if you could talk to Mark, the superintendent for Public Works, and also Mike as assistant, sometime when they feel appropriate, sometime next year, in the end of the spring, we could set up a tour of that facility. I'd like to see, how it's, how it's set up. I think that would be something would be interesting. And comment to the board, and maybe you could just open it up to the public.
Absolutely. Maybe sometime once we get out of the winter season.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay, then we'll move on to item 17, Township Engineers announcements. Over to you, Brian.
The only announcement I have of any consequence tonight is that the last house in Graceland is permitted. So there's no more.
I want to be clear.
I think, and do you have any questions for me? There's no substantial field site work going on in Graceland right now. And with the weather, most sites have come down And Kirkland Woods is supposed to start their houses in the next week. There has been permits issued for 3 houses at Kirkland Woods. And the 7 months.
Any questions for Brian?
Just the status of the punch list, I know things are maybe cut because of wintertime kind of not happening, but what's the status of the punch list on your Greystone?
And the developer has the punch list I issued in August, and that was the last I heard of it. I've heard through the grapevine from the developer talking to the HOA that they're not looking to dedicate the park until the end of the fall 2026. So they may be sitting on the punch list, they may have addressed the punch list, they haven't responded to me about any of the punch list items that I issued in the beginning of August.
Okay. Just on Greystone, so Nate and myself will be attending the NIDMA meetings. That's the Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association. So this is a financial review of the payments made for the special assessments that are done, and review of any outstanding issues that they have, and then approval for any adjustments that are needed for 2026. That meeting occurs on Friday.
That's all I have. But anyone have any questions regarding anything?
Thank you, Brian. So
Just one, what's happening with the basement stream restoration? There was some question about easements. I think that was resolved, was it not?
I have some updated information from Chris Peterson that I have to get to Kristen.
That's between Chris, and Kristen.
that's, you're talking about the easement, right there.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. So we'll move on to agenda item 18, zoning officers announcements. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Is there any update on the Wawa project on South High Street with traffic?
They resubmitted to PennDOT yesterday,
Yes.
so they still, to my knowledge, do not have a approved intersection design from PennDOT that they can use for scoping to create the construction plans yet. They're still working on the scoping of the actual layout. That's my understanding. The package just went back to PennDOT yesterday for another round of reviews.
And they provided a copy of that package to us, but there's been nothing issued.
Thank you.
I mean, it just, if I have recollection here, it's been a year now with PennDOT. I mean, we've been done with this process from our perspective in terms of the land development plan back in 2024 sometime. I don't remember exactly when, so.
I would think it was earlier this year we had that motion. I don't remember when. I don't remember when.
It was September of 2024.
September 2024 was the motion to approve it. And they've still been dealing with PennDOT on the configuration and the time.
Which there are issues that need to be addressed, so I'm glad PennDOT has given it the review it needs. It's practically how long it takes.
Don't just sometimes PennDOT is, you get to deal with PennDOT, it's on PennDOT's timeline.
Yeah.
I have a question. I had read something that the owner of the property never contacted the McDonald's.
That's my understanding.
It's new, that is news to me, I'm not aware of that.
They're working, that's a private matter. I mean, they're working through that issue, but that's my understanding.
It wasn't the township's responsibility, it was the applicant's responsibility to contact the affected property owner.
Correct.
It's on the same, the condo
It's
arrangement.
a condo arrangement.
Yeah.
It's on the same lot, but condo.
Okay. Any other questions? Now, where are we now? That was for you, wasn't it, Brian? Steve, you got any more questions? Can we move on to Shelby? Shelby, you're up.
Since Brian stole my thunder about Greystone, I will highlight that the township is still receiving zoning hearing board requests. We have made it up to 20 this year, with one that will be appearing before the board at their January 26th meeting. So, I don't have exciting news.
That was it.
That is it. It's the end of the year. We're in the coast department. We're kind of working through the end of the year stuff. In total, we've made about 1,100 permits in total.
That's a lot. Any questions for Shelby? Very good. We'll move on to agenda item number 19, approval of Board of Supervisors meeting minutes for November the 18th, 2025. Is there any typos or corrections or content changes?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ashley. I will second it. Is there any updates you received?
I did receive some typos from Mr. Woolman that I will be incorporating, nothing substantive.
Okay.
I just had one, just a very minor one, that's why I didn't even send it to you. Page 6, the sixth paragraph up from the bottom. Just change the word TO to TWO, so should be the number 2. Having 2 separate firms is the specific.
Okay. Any public comments or questions on the motion? Okay, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 20 is approval of the Treasurer's Report dated November the 30th, 2025, for the General Fund, the Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds. I'll make a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report and the bills for the funds. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Any board comments or questions on the bills or Treasurer's Report?
I just have a question. Every month we see these, and just for clarification, we have a number of funds here. I just wonder, why are these separate funds, and how long are we going to have them around? Like the Cold Springs Bridge Fund, you know, I have no idea what that's about, quite frankly. The Stormwater Capital Projects Fund, I know about restricted parks and what that is. The state funds, there's a Greystone Stub Road Construction Fund. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What these are for?
So a lot of these were set up when those projects were approved, and it was to put money in escrow for, in case any sort of maintenance work needed to be done on those areas to provide financial ability to complete them. There were probably requirements at the time that those projects were approved. So those for, I believe that the Stormwater Fund was based on the project at the shopping center to escrow for the stormwater improvements that were required in the PennDOT right of way. I believe that's what that was for. So that's in case any work needs to be done. So with 2 of the recent land development applications, there will be a separate fund set up for sidewalk projects. So that's going to be added to this list.
So that's kind of a good way to illustrate what happens when we have an ordinance change in that particular case or a particular condition applied to a project. The funds that are not specific to the requirement have to be put in a separate fund and listed as such.
There won't be an account for each individual project, like 800 Virginia Avenue South, it'll all be like one general fund for sidewalk improvements.
The Stormwater Capital Projects Fund, that was a requirement of the PennDOT permit for the shopping center, that PennDOT required the applicant to escrow with the township money for maintenance of the new stormwater infrastructure that was being installed for the shopping center along Bailey Pike that was given, that the township was responsible for maintaining the right of way. And that was the number that was agreed upon with discussions with Mark Bertolami. And I discussed that, and that was the number we came up with for the number for, I think it was 3 years. The permit just required us to collect a certain year's worth of funds, but the permit condition did not list the amount of money. It was up to us to determine the amount of money in the permit condition.
How about the Greystone Stub Road construction?
That predates me being here, so I don't know what the Greystone Stub Road is. My guess, it might be something to do with...
I don't believe it has anything to do with the...
It's not current Greystone, I think it's Greystone South.
I believe it's the older Greystone development off of Goshen Road. I think it's associated with that.
Is that your?
I believe.
Is there a stub road there somewhere?
There are 2 actually, but there's no roads.
$29,000.
Construction, I guess if that is going to be extended to the edge of the property for any reason, I think that's what that's there for. It's a construction fund. I would have to, Kristen may know what that's for from the past. There might be something in minutes in the past for that, or Rick may know. Maybe I'll ask Rick.
I know what these things are. Having 26 around funds in perpetuity. You should know what it's for.
Well, most of them we do, but there's a couple here that sound like they're getting lost in the mists of time. So maybe Chris, you and Brian and Kristen could look at, for example, Greystone Stub Road. What is this? What was the genesis and how long has it got to go before it could be closed out? There's no specific need for it. Great. Good question, John. So any other questions on the motion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0. I move to adjourn the meeting at 7:47. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a great holiday season.